to another Player Analysis show brought to you by the United Masterclass. I'm your host, Haider Rubbani, and I'm delighted to be joined again by James Rowe, football writer, interviewer, amazing knowledge and experience and connections in the football world, and also a great friend of the podcast, someone that I always enjoy talking all types of football with. So James, welcome back to the show. It's been a year, I think. Last time you came on, we did that show on Yuri and Timber, and it was a fantastic show. It was actually one of our best shows. The listeners absolutely loved it. Could be moving to Arsenal at the time of recording this, and obviously you're a big gunner, so I'm sure you're very excited at the idea or the prospect of Timber in that Arsenal side. Welcome back. Today we will be speaking about Andre Onana, but how are you? And really excited to be talking to you about Onana because he has emerged at the time of recording this as a serious contender for that number one position at Manchester United. And I think after watching him in the Champions League final for Inter, where I thought he was the standout player for Inter, fantastic on the ball, so calm, so collected, and I think he'd be a really interesting signing for Ten Hag.
Thank you very much for a fantastic introduction, Haider. Lovely to speak to you again. Lovely to be back on the channel. Things are going well, thank you. And recently I've gone over the 17-year mark of living and working here in the Netherlands. So time has passed so quickly. But yeah, as an Arsenal fan, absolutely blessed to be able to attend games from Amsterdam from time to time, obviously because the distance is so long. But hopeful of a trophy next season. Yes, Arsenal had a great season last season, but we've got to win a trophy next season. There's 4 opportunities. We've got to take one, and I really hope that we do.
Absolutely. And let's jump into the show because I think it's really important for us to talk about what Onana can offer, and hopefully Arsenal don't win too many trophies, but I thought they were fantastic this season, and hopefully United will be challenging and doing what Arsenal have done. They've built a really fantastic, young, youthful, tactically brilliant side, and I think United have a very good manager as well in Ten Hag. I'm going to bring up a graphic here, and we can talk through the graphic, in parts, but before we do that, why don't you give the listeners a really deep insight into Andre Onana as a player and as a person, and also his time at Ajax, because I think a lot of fans knew about him loosely, was a free agent, and then he did move to Inter. And I think maybe fans know more about him now because he played in the Champions League final, but he's been a very good goalkeeper, a very good ball-playing goalkeeper for a very long time. So how was his time at Ajax?
Well, first and foremost, he's a very confident young man and a good, competent goalkeeper as well. 6 years here at Ajax, before that 5 years in the academy at Barcelona, and winning trophies here in the Netherlands with 2 Eredivisie titles and 2 KNVB 2 Dutch Cups. And it looked for all the world when he was going to leave Ajax that he would go to Barcelona, but it ended up being Inter Milan. And I believe he has grown as a goalkeeper. At Ajax, he was a great shot stopper in particular. And you see that his distribution at Inter Milan has improved. You see the Italian league also improving. It's not a poor man relations. It's got a lot of depth and some very good teams. So I believe he has grown as a goalkeeper, and it'd be interesting to see if Manchester United get the deal over the line. But I think it's also important to give props to David de Gea. I mean, I remember seeing David de Gea play for Atletico Madrid in the Madrid derby in, I believe it was April 2010. And you could tell he was an excellent goalkeeper then. And I think he's done really well at Manchester United. I really do. And it'd be interesting to see how things go. I think Ten Hag has had a great first season. To win something and to get that top 4 is brilliant. And I hope that United can invest and he can push forward. But I think the takeover, I think that could well drag out. So you hope that won't be negative for the club. But a great first season for Ten Hag, and he's still a very young manager relatively as well. So good signs for United. I just hope that they remain patient.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've encapsulated a lot of points that I want to break down with you here today. So let's talk about David de Gea versus Onana. And I'm really happy that you have come in, and obviously you're not a United fan, and David Gea's got a lot of hate. A lot of it's really disappointing to see, to be honest with you, because he's been a Manchester United for a long time. I would say he's a legend at the club. There was that period, wasn't there, after Sir Alex left, and United were absolutely shocking him. And David De Gea, week in, week out, year after year, United's best player saving Manchester United. I do think, though, when you're looking at the way that Ten Hag wants to play, and we will go into that in a bit more detail, but playing out from the back, having a goalkeeper and two centre-backs who are comfortable in build-up. You saw with Lisandro Martinez been an absolute revelation. What a fantastic sign for Man United. Probably my favourite player, along with Casemiro at Manchester United. I mean, he's completely thrown the odd criticism about his height, obviously being 5'9", out the window. Jamie Carragher, who I'm a big fan of, but obviously did admit that he was wrong there. United have got him there, and then Varane is a decent option, but the goalkeeper has been a problem for United. Do you think, from watching United play a few times this season and knowing what you do know about David De Gea, who very good shot stopper, but the lack of ball playing ability or a lack of adaptability, let's say, that he hasn't shown that really. Do you think that it is time to move him on? And then is Onana the right player to be bringing in? You mentioned he was a very good shot stopper at Ajax, but he's shown that on the ball he's been fantastic. And I think the way that modern football is going, you look at Aaron Ramsdale at Arsenal, for example. Obviously, Jay Leno, not Jay Leno, Bernd Leno. We've gone to Fulham, and Ramsdale coming in, and a few people sort of raised a few eyebrows, even myself included. I was like, 60, but he's been a revelation. I mean, he's been one of the main reasons why Arsenal have improved so dramatically. You look at Liverpool with Alisson, the best keeper in the world, in my opinion, sensational at every aspect of the game, but great on the ball. You look at Ederson, fantastic come off his line. All the top clubs, and I would say the clubs that have aspirations to win all the big trophies, are built on the foundation of having a ball-playing goalkeeper. And I think it's so important for Man United to bring one in. And I believe, personally, David De Gea has been an incredible servant. He's a legend for me. I think it's time to move him on. Or if he's happy to sit on the bench and take a reduced wage, I'm also happy to have him stick around as well. But United do need to go towards an Onana or maybe a Diogo Costa from Porto.
I think you make some great points, Haider, and I will start by saying that we're in the middle of a transfer window, and I'd like to start by saying that you can't plan a career. You can have dreams and ambitions, but you can't plan a career. And I think a lot of fans in the current day, I think they have short memories. And I really do. I mean, Manchester United in my lifetime, Jim Leighton, Les Sealey, Massimo Taibbi, Fabian Barthez, Peter Schmeichel, and it comes and it goes in waves, as you like. But as you say, I think De Gea has been a great servant. And for all the vitriol about, you say about him getting a lot of hate, I think that's very unfair. I really do, and as for ball playing centre halves, there's more than one way to Rome. If everybody in the world plays the same way, I think people would get a little bit tired of that quite quickly. The famous saying of an unstoppable force against an immovable object. What's going to happen? And not everyone has the ability to play like Manchester City, and nor should everyone have the inclination to play like Manchester City. If you're going to beat Man City, what you've got to do is you've got to try something different.
No, it's a fantastic point. And I think, look, David De Gea deserves the respect. He's earned the respect. He won the Golden Glove as well. And he deserves if he does leave this summer. And I think United are doing the right thing looking at Onana and other goalkeepers as well. I know David Raya is another one for Brentford, a very good goalkeeper on the list. I think going forward, United do need someone who's more comfortable with the ball at their feet. But David De Gea deserves the respect and deserves, if he does leave, to be remembered very fondly. But James, I do want to jump in now before we look at the graphic here. I do want to talk about his relationship with Ten Hag. So I might be wrong here, so please do correct me. But I do sort of remember the time when he was looking to leave Ajax. Maybe things got a little bit frosty. Maybe it was with the club rather than with Ten Hag. But how was their relationship at Ajax? And you mentioned about Onana's, very good mentality. What does Ten Hag like about him is my question, because what I've been impressed with pretty much all the Ten Hag signings, whether you think of Malacia, whether you think of Casemiro, every single player that's come in, Christian Eriksen's another, I felt like they've had the right mentality, the right attitude. And when you're looking to build a club which has been in the doldrums compared to United standards over the last 20 to 30 years, you've got to be bringing in the right characters into this dressing room. And I've really been impressed with the players that Ten Hag has brought in from that perspective. And I like the likes of Mason Mount being mentioned, obviously Harry Kane's another one. I think players with great mentality. So, what are some of the qualities that Ten Hag liked about him, and what was his relationship? I mean, did they fall out at all, or is this all just sort of paper talk and hearsay?
Well, you may well know that Onana had disagreements with Rigobert Song, manager of Cameroon, about certain issues regarding the national team and playing time. So he does have a little bit of previous, but I think that's more down to his wanting to play. He wants to play every single game as a goalkeeper. He's a very confident young man. So I don't think it's a quality which is to his detriment. I think coupled with his age, I think he wanted to make as much progression as he could. Hence why he was maybe a little bit too forthcoming and a little bit vocal about certain things. But in terms of Ten Hag, when we spoke when he was first appointed, he's always looking for players who can search and find the solution themselves. And I think that's why he's looking for Onana, because he's got good distribution, good shot stopper. And if he can help United relieve pressure in certain areas, I think that could help. And they do have a good relationship as well. Ten Hag is always quite loyal to his players. And I think that a first season in Manchester United, the biggest club in England, it's not easy. I mean, his salary at Ajax was, I believe, 675,000 euros, and his first salary at Manchester United was 11.8 million euros. So that's got to do something to you. People say about the money involved in the game, whether you're a solicitor or whether you're a bricklayer or whether you're a administration clerk. If you go from that switch in salary, that's going to do something with you. And I think he's been helped by Mitchell van der Gaag, and he's been helped by Steve McLaren, especially as well, with McLaren knowing the club as well. That's also really important. And I think he's surrounded himself with good people. So I think he's identifying good players. And if he can build on this season by maybe trying to win another trophy, trying to cement Champions League again, maybe getting a little bit closer to Manchester City, because, people are talking about successive trebles, and timing is everything in football. And it fell for Manchester City this season, gone. But it's not going to fall every single season. And I think it will be a lot closer next time round.
I agree with that. And you mentioned earlier about the takeover and how, it's just completely dragging on. It's a farce. The whole situation is a farce. I don't want to go into the details, or who do I prefer, because I think it's just pointless, and it's not a constructive conversation. But that is one of my fears when I'm looking at Ten Hag and the fantastic work he's done. United they were deep into pretty much every single cup competition, and the way that he tried to manage the squad, and you look at the limitations in the squad as well, and there are a lot of limitations. He did a fantastic job. Really excited to see what he can do. I'm delighted he's the manager of Manchester United. But the takeover, if he's not back properly, it'd be such a shame. All the hard work and the great foundations that's been built the first season could go out the window. But so you mentioned some of the strengths of Onana, but I want to look at the graphic here on the screen from FBref. I want to pick out a few shot stopping ones, and then we'll look at some of the other strengths and weaknesses. So you can see here this season for Onana, he's had a really, really good season. Something that surprised me actually is his save percentage at 88th percentile in Europe. So he's up there nearly with some of the top shot stoppers. That surprised me a lot, because I think sometimes I can sense a mistake in him at times. Personally, when I've seen him, obviously, he's very he's combative. I think, obviously on the ball as well, there could be some mistakes, but take away all of those things, he's a really good goalkeeper doing what you're meant to do, stopping goals. And a lot of fans are worried that if United bring in let's say a ball-playing goalkeeper, or a keeper that's great with the ball at his feet, is able to build up, is comfortable playing short passes, long passes, knowing when to release it, when to knowing when to play it short. But all of that aside, you still need your goalkeeper to stop goals. And being in the 88th percentile at 76.4% save percentage is really, really good. So when you take away all the extra modern, I'm going to say in quotation marks, modern aspects or qualities of a goalkeeper, you still need your goalkeeper to save shots. So, and clean sheets, 92nd percentile. Clean sheets is a team thing as well. I always say, David De Gea got the golden boot, but the golden glove, but Lisandro Martinez and Varane and the back four also deserve their props there for Manchester United this season. You defend as a team. But Onana is a really good goalkeeper when you take away those other qualities that Ten Hag is looking for.
I fully agree, and I think as well to step up from the Eredivisie to Serie A, it mustn't be easy. And there are some really good teams in Serie A. I mean, if you look at the top 8, Fiorentina reached the European final. Roma, Atalanta, Inter Milan, AC Milan, Napoli, Juventus, Lazio. It's not easy, especially away from home. Italy is kind of having a little bit of a renaissance. Excuse the pun, but it is in terms of the league, and I always say that it's important to look at different leagues. You can't judge them all as if when I hear people say about the French league, being a farmers' league, are people aware that the league was reduced this season ahead of next season, where instead of having 20 participants, there's only going to be 18. They also done away with their French League Cup. It's becoming a little bit of a closed shop in France in particular. But it's always nice to spread the knowledge around. And I think with the European journey that Inter are on, I mean, I still think that Federico De Marcos, who had a great Champions League run, and people were saying, oh, they were on the good side of the draw. Onana's done really well. And I've been saying it on so many occasions that there's not a pot of gold at the end of every transfer. I've interviewed managers and players where a transfer has broken their career and made their career. So you need that timing. You need things to come together. Football is littered of nearly stories of transfers and things like that. And you just have to try to make the right decision for you as a player, and make sure that the best situation is the best one you're going into to perform to the best of your ability.
Yeah, absolutely. You're spot on. I think you make some good points as well regarding maybe perception of other leagues, especially when Premier League fans, I think, do this a lot, perception of these leagues. But you look at the Italian league or Serie A, for example, like you said, Fiorentina, Roma, and Inter all got to the finals of Conference, Europa, and the Champions League. So I think, considering all of that, and Inter were nowhere near the strongest side as well, even in Serie A. So I think Onana was a big reason why they were able to do that. This graphic here, James, as well, it might be a little bit difficult for you to see, so I will call a few things out. So big one that stands out to me here is passes attempted, 90th percentile in Europe compared to other goalkeepers in top 5 leagues. That's nearly 36 passes a game per 90 minutes, which is really, really good. And it's a lot more than what David De Gea is on the lower end of the scale. So that's the one I do really want to pick out with you. And I think something that's very, very interesting as well is crosses stopped as well, 56 percentile, so 6.1%. United have had a few issues with David De Gea, besides being a world-class shot stopper. And I think, though, this season he has made a few mistakes, and that's been frustrating. But commanding his area and commanding your area is still important in the Premier League. I don't think it's as important as people think it is. Back in, I would say, the early 2000s to the late 2000s, and obviously in the 90s and 80s, commanding your area is very, very important. I don't think you expect your keeper to consistently be jumping out and catching these balls, but I think commanding outside of the area, I'm going to say. So, being able to come off the line and sweep, allowing you to play a high line is really, really important. And that's what I've liked from Onana, is that not only is he comfortable shot stopping, not only is he comfortable playing out from the back or going long, he's comfortable coming off his line and playing that sweeper role. So when I'm looking at some of the underlying numbers as well, which back up what I think about him, I think the eye test has also been positive with Onana as well. I mean, is he... When you compare him to someone like Diogo Costa, who's been linked to Manchester United, who I think's probably got a higher ceiling, but that doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to achieve that talent, like you mentioned. There's no pot of gold at the end of a transfer. So when you're looking at what Ten Hag is looking for, he knows Onana, he knows what he's about. You can see with your eyes as well. You can look at the stats. He's a top goalkeeper, and that's the reason why I think Ten Hag is looking towards Onana, isn't it? Rather than maybe someone like Costa.
Yeah, I believe so. And also, although the Portuguese league is much maligned, it's an easier step up from Serie A to the Premier League than Liga Sagres or the Liga NOS, as they say, from the Portuguese league to the Premier League. It's easier to step up, from Serie A to the Premier League. And as I said when I first come on before we went live today, The transfer window has only been open for 9 days. And it really is like an industry within an industry. It never used to be that way.
Absolutely. And James, thank you so much for joining me. We're at time now, but where can the listeners find your fantastic work? And tell the listeners as well what you have in the pipeline. You're not on Twitter anymore. So, yeah, where can they find your fantastic work?
Well, for lots of people who respected my work, and I remember going to Ajax Benfica once, taking my seat and hearing somebody shout, "James!" And I'm in a stadium of 55,000 people, and they're like, "Oh, I read your work, and can I have a photo?" I was like, "Okay, no problem." But it took me by surprise a little bit in the Champions League a few years back, and I always like to be honest with people that respected my work and people I work with and people I like. Many rumours about Twitter as to what happened with me. Obviously, having the same name as a football manager as well, who's also hit the headlines. You know, people think it's the same person. It's not. You know, one had NL referring to the Netherlands. This is where I live, and what it was is I had people working in the media departments of Queen's Park Rangers, Millwall and Charlton Athletic getting in touch with me on Twitter, wanting me to kind of do their job for them. And it was driving me a little bit up the wall, where if I'm working in professional football, you won't have to approach strangers or people that know their stuff on Twitter. So it was something I was finding difficult. So I decided to end that one. People can always find my work by Googling me. I'm well known for my work on World Football Index, Football Alanya as well. Also, having wrote for the Secret Footballer website as well, and many different Arsenal podcasts through the years. So if you just Google James Rowe football interviews or James Rowe Arsenal podcast, you'll always find something to keep you jolly, I hope. And lovely to be back speaking about football, and look forward to next time already.
Absolutely, James. Listen, you're my go-to man when it comes to anything to do, the expert on Dutch football. So thank you so much for joining me. Guys, thank you very much for listening. Make sure you do check out some of James's work. We'll put it in the link below, and we will see you all next time.